Hi Otters and welcome to another guided reading lesson. Today we're going to be reading a story called The Dark by Lemony Snicket. Now this is quite well, it's a lot of pages in this story, but it is a picture book, so please don't be daunted by that because there isn't a huge amount of writing, but there are some gorgeous illustrations to go alongside with the book. I wouldn't say it was scary, but if you're not a fan of the dark, don't worry, okay? It's a good ending, okay? So if you haven't done so already, pause me here, please, and have a go at the reading the text. Just so you're aware that the main character is called Laszlo. That's how you pronounce his name. So pause me whilst you do that, and then press play when you're ready for your questions. Lovely. So you should have read that story. And I have to say, I absolutely love their use of light and dark and how some of the pages are almost completely pitch black. I think it's fab. So first off, we've got a vocabulary check today. It's slightly different to normal. These are some words that you may not know, but I think we could have all had a sensible guess. It's mainly because some of it is American. So for example, a closet, I would call that a wardrobe. Okay, it's where you put your clothes. Shower curtain, it's quite self-explanatory. It is what it is. I've got a chest of drawers, and then I think you'd all know the verb to peek, and that's to look in a cautious way. So you might peek around the corner, or in this case, peek a look through your fingers maybe. You've also got a creak, which is a squeaking noise and makes it sound a bit more eerie and a bit scarier. And then you've got the basement, and that's the part of the building that is below ground level. So most houses nowadays, especially in England, don't have basements, but some of you might live in an older Victorian house, for example, that might have a downstairs. Another word for a basement might be a cellar as well, something like that. Okay, then moving on. Now we're going to do the quick start. So we've got 4 questions. Have a go at these 4. Pause me here and then press play when you're ready to go through some answers. Okay then, so hopefully you've had a go at those 4 questions. So number 1, it says, how does Laszlo feel about the dark? Because it is the first question of our comprehension, the answer is most probably near the beginning of the text, and in this case it was on that very first page. So it says that Laszlo was afraid of the dark. So if you said he was afraid or scared or something along those lines, you'd get the mark. Question 2, where does the dark live? Now I would give you the mark for different answers. So if you said in Laszlo's house, I'll give you the mark. But if you were more specific and were able to say in the basement, you'd get a mark for that as well. Question 3, where does the dark visit Laszlo? Now, I would say, I've had a read through this, and I would say that the dark would visit Laszlo in his bedroom. I didn't find specifically where it said that, but there is a page where it says Laszlo thought that if he visited the dark in the dark's room, maybe the dark wouldn't come visit him in his room. Okay, so whilst it doesn't say specifically that, I would say in his bedroom. I wouldn't say the basement, okay, because that isn't the dark visiting Laszlo. That is Laszlo visiting the dark. Okay, so it's slightly different. And then question 4, what does the dark help Laszlo find? And this was right at the end. He helped him find a drawer full of light bulbs. Moving on then. First things first, it says, how do you think Laszlo feels when the dark tells him to come closer? So this is quite far into the text, so you might want to find that page. So how do you think Laszlo feels when the dark tells him to come closer? Now the sentence stem that you might use would be Laszlo felt blah blah when the dark tells him to come closer. Now, because I've been extra organised today, I've actually got a potential answer on here. So once you've paused me until you've written your answer, and then press play when you're ready to go through mine. Okay then, so I went for something along the lines of, let's see if it's going to work. So I said that Laszlo might feel nervous and a little bit scared because he is scared of the dark. You might have used different words to nervous and scared, maybe terrified, worried, anxious, but something along those lines. And then I've gone that step further by explaining why he would feel nervous, and it's because he's scared of the dark. You might not have done that, but well done if you went that step further to show your understanding. Next question. So it says, why is the dark back in the basement in the morning? Your sentence then might be something like, the dark is back in the basement in the morning because. Pause me whilst you answer this question and press play when you're ready to move on. Okay then, so I wrote down for this one, you might have had something slightly different, and I wrote, the dark comes out of the basement when it is nighttime because it is dark outside. It goes back to the basement in the morning when it is bright. So I was hoping you'd spot that he only comes out when it's dark and he goes back to the basement when it's light. Something about day and night, or being dark and light, the difference between those two was what I was looking for. Next question. How can you tell Laszlo is no longer afraid of the dark towards the end of the story? How can you tell Laszlo is no longer afraid of the dark towards the end of the story? Now this question is quite nice because it tells you that Laszlo isn't afraid of the dark anymore. You've just got to find out how we know that. So pause me whilst you have a go at this question. So how do we know that Laszlo is no longer afraid of the dark? And then press play when you're ready to go through the answer. Okay then, so I had for my answer, oh my mouse doesn't like me today. So I said that at the end of the story, it tells us that the dark never bothered him again. This means that he was no longer afraid. Okay, so if you wrote something along the lines that the dark never bothered him again. Okay, next question. So independent thinking now. It says, explain how Laszlo's feelings have changed throughout the story. So you might want to describe Laszlo how he feels at the beginning, which was actually one of our questions in our quick start. And then how does he feel at the end, which is sort of linked into this question. So you already know the answer to this one. It's just putting it onto paper and putting it into a sentence. Pause me whilst you have a go at this question. Explain how Laszlo's feelings have changed throughout the story. And then press play when you're ready to go through some answers. Okay then, so, oh, my mouse really doesn't like me today. So I had, at the beginning of the story, Laszlo is afraid of the dark, and at the end of the story, Laszlo is braver and no longer afraid of the dark. So if you had something along those lines, you would get yourself a mark. It might be worded slightly different to me, but you have to have said how he feels at the beginning and how he feels at the end. Okay, next one. Right then, so solo work. I would like you to summarize the events of the story in fewer, that means less than 30 words. You can choose those words, obviously, and it can be 30 on the dot. I would like you to try and put them in full sentences though, please. Don't just cut out some important words just to get it down to 30 words. So if you were going to describe this story to me or to a sibling or to a parent, how could you do it in 30 words? I'm not going to go through the answer for this one because you might all have slightly different answers, okay? But please make sure you're sending them in to me so I can have a look and see if anybody's managed to do it in less than 30 words. I might try and see who's done it in the least amount of words. Right then, that's it from me today. I hope you enjoyed this story. I really liked it. I definitely think I'm going to try and find a copy for in class. I might buy a copy. Anyway, have a lovely day, and I will be back again in a couple of days for some more guided reading.